Okay, check. Okay, so guys, let's start again for the last panel for the summer course 2024. And this panel will discuss about the policies and global initiative. On the previous panel, from the first until fourth panel, you already discussed about the agricultural things and then public health, nutrition, and the biochemistry regarding the food security and the health status. And for the last panel, we will give you knowledge about the policies and global initiative. This panel has 4 speakers. 2 from Thailand and 1 from Australia and 1 from Universitas Gajah Mada. And before I give the panel to the moderator, I'll give you some informations regarding your next activity. For tomorrow's sessions, once again, please attend at the location of outbound in the Wisdom Park, a maximum at 7:15, because at 7:30 we have to start. Okay, once again, for tomorrow's session, hopefully you can attend the session at 7:15. Because on 7:30 you have to start. And for those who stay in the Mardia Islamic Center, actually you can just walk from that mosque to the locations, or you can ask your friends to riding a motorcycle. And then the second one is the one who still bring plates, glasses. Please take it outside at the tables. Untuk teman-teman yang masih ada gelas, kemudian piring dan lain sebagainya, mungkin bisa diletakkan di luar untuk diberesi oleh teman-teman. And then, okay. I just updated my quizzes. I have around 100 questions. Okay, so make sure you learn again about the presentation materials. Start from the preliminary session until panel 5. Okay, so actually the question is quite easy, but the answer is hard. And then another quiz, you have to complete the essay. Each panel have the 1 essay, maximum in 300 words, but I still figure out what is the question. I still waiting for the moderator for each panel to give the question regarding for the essay. And make sure you complete all the assignment if you want to get the certificate and also academic transcript. Once again, please make sure in the end of the course you complete all the assignment, presents form, and then all the quizzes if you want to get the electronic certificate and academic transcript. Okay, so without further ado, let's start from the last panel from the lecture sessions that will discuss about the policies and global initiative. And this panel will be led by Apotheker Rizka, Prita, Yuliani, M.Pharm from Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Gajah Mada, for around 2.5 hours until 3 hours. I will give the stage to Bu Rizka.
Check. Okay. Thank you, Mas Yopi, for the warm introduction. Good afternoon, guys. I think it's the effect of after lunch break, right? Okay, once again, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, good afternoon, thank you. So today, I believe this is like the last panel for the course. And I hope you all enjoy your lunch break and ready for the next panel, okay? And in this panel, we have like 4 distinguished speakers from, I believe, 3 countries. But before we start, we will play some profile of our distinguished speakers. And we will wait for the video to play. Okay, so basically this panel will explore more about like critical policies and regulation and maybe their effect to our health outcomes and also food, global food systems in not only Indonesia but in a global. But before I start to explain more about this panel, I think I will invite our distinguished speaker to the front of the class. Yeah, the first one will be Assistant Professor Tuangrat Phodha from Thammasat University, Thailand. And followed by Assistant Professor Parun Rutjanathamrong, also from Thammasat University, Thailand. And also joining us online will be Dr. Matthew Kelly from Australian National University, Australia. And Dr. Digna Niken Purwaningrum from Faculty of Medicine, Public Health and Nourishing, Fakultas Universitas Gadjah Mada, Indonesia. Okay, have a seat, please. Okay, yeah, without further ado, I think we will start with the first speakers. Assistant Professor Tuangrat Phodha is, I called you Dr. Tuang, is it okay? Yeah. She served as an assistant professor in Faculty of Pharmacy, Thammasat University, Thailand. And she holds a Ph.D. in Pharmacy Administration from Mahidol University and also has like extensive experience as a visiting scholar at the University of Toronto, Canada. Dr. Phodha expertise spans on health economic, health service research, and cost studies, and also impactful studies on economic burden of antimicrobial resistance and cost effectiveness of health service. Yeah. For today, Dr. Phodha will present the topic related to review situation of antibiotic use in food production. And yeah, Dr. Phodha, the floor is yours. Yeah.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Our students, are you sleepy after lunch? No, okay. So today I am going to share with you about the situation of antibiotic use in the food production. So mainly in like animal food production. Okay. So food. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So click next here, right? Okay. ไปไหมไม่ไปทางนู้นไปไหม Oh, maybe here. Okay. Okay, this is my the outline of my talk today. So I'm gonna start with the problem of antibiotic use in the food production and the antimicrobial resistance, and followed by the surveillance information on the consumption and also on the resistance in food chain. And then the next topic gonna be pro and con of using antibiotic in food. And then we will focus on raise public knowledge on the issue of antibiotic use in food. And also the final topic will be the highlight summary. Okay, so we start with the problem. I think I can read from there. Okay. Antimicrobial resistance is known as the one of the greatest health threats of the 21st century, causes approximately 700,000 annual deaths globally. And also in Thailand, still very high. As the thesis, my Ph.D. thesis, we published in 2017, I think. Also very high number in Thailand. And it has been estimated that failure to address antimicrobial resistance today will result in up to 10 million annual deaths and 100 trillion US dollar economic losses by 2050. And the highest impact will affect Asian and African region, accounting for 4.7 and 4.2 million annual deaths respectively. And then I will show you the graph, the geometric graph. Unfortunately, evidence indicates that antimicrobial consumption is on the rise worldwide, with a 36% increase between during 10 years from 2000 to 2010. And this our global mapping, right? You can see the red triangle or red pyramid show the number of deaths. As I said, the highest number of deaths is in the region of Asia and also Africa region. And this blue shades in the map show the mortality per 10,000 population in each area, and it's inconsistent with the number of deaths also. Okay. An equally important area is antibiotic use in companion animals, agriculture and aquaculture, as well as poor hygienic practice in meat production supply chains, which could induce the emergence and spread of resistant bacteria among animals to farm workers and through contamination in meat product in the environment and negative impact on consumer of animal product. A recent study estimates the global use of antimicrobial in livestock will increase by 67% from 63,000 to 106,000 tons over the next 10 years. The world, this one. The World Health Organization consider antimicrobial resistance in human and animal to be one of the top 10 threats to global health. Estimates suggest that by 2050, up to 10 million deaths could occur annually, affecting economy and shifting more people into poverty. And it is the source of inequity in our world. If not deal with AMR could also significantly affect agricultural production, again affecting economy and also food security, which is our theme of summer course, right? And low income and lower middle income country will bear most of the burden. So we're gonna come up to the next topic regarding to surveillance information. So I will start with the information on situation of antimicrobial consumption in food producing animal. This is the case study of Thailand. The national surveillance of antimicrobial resistance in food producing animal has been focused on broiler and pigs, since both are the major food producing animal in Thailand. This surveillance covers chicken from slaughterhouse and meat from slaughterhouse and retail market. I will show the number from the study that they are sampling the sample from slaughterhouse and also the retail market. All of the sample were tested for bacterial identification and antimicrobial susceptibility testing by the National Institute of Animal Health, Bureau of Quality Control of Livestock Product, and Regional Veterinary Research and Development Center. The antimicrobial for antimicrobial susceptibility test include many classes of the antibiotics such as polymyxin, colistin, fluoroquinolone, third generation cephalosporin, and other antimicrobial commonly used in livestock. So this also the situation in Thailand as well. That, as I said, I give you the example of Thailand. This is the situation of overall consumption of antimicrobial in food producing animal. And you can see from the 2017 until 2021, the overall consumption of antimicrobial was decreased by around 40% from the baseline from the 2017. And most of the purpose use of antimicrobial is the antimicrobial agent for systemic use, as shown in like light blue or green color. Yes, and the blue one is intestinal use. Okay. And this is more focused on the antimicrobial agent for systematic use, and we like see in the divided into the classes of antibiotic, and you can see that the class of penicillin or beta-lactam and antibacterial is the one that highest consumption in the systemic use. So this is like a highlight number that we found in both 2017 and 2018. And followed by the tetracycline, and then the other class of antibiotic. Okay. So if we show the number in terms of pharmaceutical dosage form, we see that most of the antimicrobial are consumed in the dosage form of premix for the like a food for the animal. Then when we focus on what class of antibiotic used mixed in the premix form, we will see the comparator between 2017 and 2018. Some class of antibiotic are increased, some are decreased, but still mainly in the class of penicillin, because we can see the amoxicillin and also tetracycline as well. And this is the chart for consumption of critically important antimicrobial. Critically important antimicrobial, as I understand, is the antimicrobial that used in human also. So it should not be like resistant. Otherwise, we will run out the option to treat people when you get infected. So there are, I think, 4 classes of the antibiotic here, and we divided into to highest priority and high priority. So all of them are 8 classes. And you can see that penicillin are the highest consumption, but not that very serious, because I think because of there are many type of antibiotic in the penicillin group. So we still have some choices for treatment people. Okay. And this one is the example of the study that random sampling for the cecum from slaughterhouse and also from meat at slaughterhouse and at retail market. You can see that the ampicillin and the tetracycline also the highest antibiotic that found from those samples. Okay. And this graph show the trend between 5 years from 2017 to 2021. So it actually the number from the previous slide, but this slide just separate into each year, and you can see the dynamic increase or decrease in some antibiotic. Okay, and this is the example of one important type of antimicrobial resistance we call ESBL. Do you know ESBL? Escherichia. It is a word that we call the bacteria that resistant to beta lactam. So actually two main type of bacteria. The first one is Salmonella. The second one is Escherichia coli. So both of them, they are most likely to resistant to beta lactam antibiotic. So that's very important. And cause the nosocomial infection, the hospital acquired infection in human also. So this is the example of this type of resistant bacteria that sampling from the meat sample of pork and chicken in Thailand. As I said, these two type of meat is the main food in Thailand. Okay, and then the graph and on the right hand side is separate between E. coli and Salmonella in pork and chicken sample. So we can see that they use the we find the ampicillin, the highest quantity consumed in this kind of meat. So that's why it's most likely to resistant to beta lactam because ampicillin is in the beta lactam class, right? Okay. So we done for two topic. Then the third topic is pro and con of using antibiotic in food. So the main purpose of antibiotic use are to prevent infection in animal or plant or aquatic animal and to treat infection and finally to promote growth. Okay, agriculture production entails raising food animal, engaging in aquaculture, producing food, crop, or providing input such as feed, textile, ornamental plants, biofuel, and other agriculture commodity. The pathway along the agri-food value chain vary, but all begin with the production of plants or animal, including the procurement and provision of nutrients, source water, growing crop, animal, administrating medicine and waste management. Storage, processing, packaging, and distribution for sale and consumption are also important aspects of the value chain along the storage, disposal, and management of input and waste. You can see that several points in agriculture value chain serve as the entry point for the antimicrobial and antimicrobial resistant organism into the environment, such as use of antimicrobial to treat infection and promote growth, use of reclaimed wastewater for irrigate crop, and use of manure as fertilizer and inadequate waste management. Unless broader steps are taken towards making food system more sustainable and curbing the use of antimicrobial in animal husbandry practice, so the use of antimicrobial in food production will continue grow. Right? This is in terms of globally. But some of the country they have some measurement or some policy. In I think last 10 years before, and then they can have meaningful reduce in antimicrobial use in food animal husbandry. For example, Belgium, China, Denmark, the Netherlands, and Thailand also. Okay, this photo show the end point of the agriculture and food value chain. So it end up with the market, right? And then people buy the food to consume, right? But if this kind of fresh vegetable or fruit has the antimicrobial residue, it's gonna come up with the dangerous to human. And this is use of antimicrobial and manure in crop production, like fungicide, antibiotic, and other chemical applied in crop may affect AMR development. You know that in crop growing, some of the farmer they use the fungicide or pesticide that disturb the ecological of the bacterial in environment also. Unlike the antimicrobial used in human and animal, the pesticide are applied directly into the environment and could result in higher local concentration of these pollutant with subsequent effect on antimicrobial resistance. Pesticide with antimicrobial property such as antibiotic, fungicide, include metal-based plant protection products such as those containing copper are used to maintain plant health. In Thailand also they use a lot of this. For example, in the orange, like the orange, they use the pesticide to prevent green disease in orange. And most of them use amoxicillin. They put in the xylene and put inside the orange tree in the northern part of Thailand. So it caused a lot of antimicrobial resistance problem as well. So this agent should be used, stored, and disposed of in way that limit environmental contamination. But most of the time they're not, right? They not manage it properly. So this short integrated pest management program could reduce the need for antimicrobial pesticide in plant production. Use of wastewater, sewage, and manure in crop production can develop and spread of antimicrobial resistance when manure or wastewater biosolid are used to fertilize or condition soil, or when untreated wastewater is used for irrigation. Antimicrobial residue, antimicrobial resistant gene, and resistant microorganisms are released into the environment. Irrigation water is a known source of produce contamination with antimicrobial resistant microorganisms and associated risk to human risk. Okay, but most of the time the farmer or the farm worker, they work in the farm without adequate personal protective equipment, and they may export to the antimicrobial residue but from their work also. Antimicrobial resistance in crop production spread via food chain. Contamination of food crop with antimicrobial residue and antimicrobial resistant microorganisms from environmental sources during primary production has implications for public health. Use of antimicrobial in crop production, often as pesticide, can also cause direct pollution to the environment, impacting microbial biodiversity and ecosystem service. Selection pressure from antibiotic use in a crop production environment is a concern, and therefore it has been recommended that the use of antibiotic is integrated pest management should not be registered as pesticide when the antimicrobial are also used in animal and in human and animal medicine. It should separate, or it should not register the same classify. Residue of the antimicrobial agent exceeding safety limit may be present in food that have been inappropriate treated or harvested without respecting recommended instruction and pre-harvest interval. Perhaps more importantly, fruit and vegetable may be a source of ingestion of antimicrobial resistant pathogen when you consume those fruit or vegetable in raw. Furthermore, farm worker may be exposed to hazardous amount of antimicrobial if they are not applied appropriately or without the use of proper personal protective equipment. Using fecal material as a source of crop fertilizer come with human and animal health risks, notably through exposure to pathogen or resistant enteric microorganisms via consumption of contaminated plant-based food or water. Antimicrobial residue may be hazardous if consumed even at low concentration. So this means that it does not depend on the amount of antimicrobial residue. For as you know that the allergic reactions such as anaphylaxis shock, it doesn't depend on the amount or the dosing of the antibiotic. And there is growing concern that even low level of consumed residue may negatively impact the gut microbiome. Even you don't have the allergy or the anaphylaxis, but still it impact the normal flora in your gastrointestinal tract, right? Fresh food and vegetable contaminated from irrigation water, soil and fertilizer, unsanitary equipment and worker may all contaminate food with antimicrobial resistant bacteria. Although this is more problematic in low-income country and lower-income country food system due to the frequent use of inadequate treated wastewater for irrigation and limit barrier between the waste and food product. In time and location of water scarcity, wastewater used for irrigation purpose can be viable, providing that the wastewater is treated to achieve a quality that is fit for purpose and does not compromise the safety of the food. However, there is evidence that resistant microorganisms and antimicrobial resistant genes can be selective enriched in soil irrigated with reduced wastewater. Although this depends on the nature of the local soil, climatic factor, and crop type also. Consideration of antimicrobial resistance would ideally be used to determine a fit for purpose use, such as whether a food product is likely to be eaten raw. Okay, this show the antimicrobial may use in the open or the closed system of the aquatic culture. Antimicrobial are used worldwide in aquatic culture, particularly in intensive rearing system to control the disease for the aquatic animals. And this is the cause that sometimes people or the patient come to the hospital with allergic, but we cannot distinguish that they allergic to the seafood or kind of occasion or whatever food from the sea, and or they allergic to the antimicrobial that used in the rearing system, because sometimes we found that the people can eat, for example, shrimp from another places, but for example, from in the up country, they can eat shrimp, but in Bangkok, they allergic. So it's it means that they might not allergic to shrimp, right? But they allergic to some kind of chemical, maybe antibiotic or even what the chemical used in formalin, right? Formalin. Yeah. In Thailand, we do have that problem as well. So it does not safe, right? Due to that, the genetic exchange in aquaculture farm from the persistent use of antimicrobial. These have been designed as possible genetic hotspot in the pond. Dissemination of antimicrobial resistance to surrounding environment occur because of subspatial temporal variable and fish feed usage and varying regulation. So we come almost the final topic. This topic is about raise public knowledge on the issue of antibiotic use in food. So I will talk about the AMR and environment first. The key economic sector contributing to the environment dimension of the antimicrobial resistance can be broadly classified as pharmaceutical and other chemical manufacturing and use, including a range of different chemicals such as antibiotic, antivirals, and antifungicides, as well as disinfectant. Agriculture include animal production, aquaculture, food crop, or those providing input such as feed, textile, ornamental plant, biofuel, and other agricultural commodity, healthcare delivery in hospital, medical facility, community healthcare facility, and in pharmacy where a broad range of chemical and disinfectant may be used. While the relationship between environmental pollution and antimicrobial resistance and the reservoir of the resistant genes in the environment has been established, the significance and its contribution to antimicrobial resistance globally is still unclear. So it's like blame each other. In Thailand also, some people say that the origin of the AMR is come from hospital or human sector, but some of them said that it's come from the food production and the environment. So actually we know that there is the relationship, but we don't know which direction is the cause, right? Maybe they like have both direction relationship to each other. Even even so, there is enough knowledge to implement measures to reduce the factors that influence antimicrobial resistance from an environmental perspective. This will also address the triple planetary crisis by addressing sources, sink, and waste. This is the example of Thailand surveillance. So this study, they survey for the population about the decision to buy meat red without antibiotic. That I think nowadays in Thailand it's become a trend. Most people are more likely to buy food like organic food that grow or raised without using of antibiotic. But they survey and they found that 1/4 of the respondents knew that antibiotics were used in food producing animals. And 22.8% knew that meat without antibiotic was also available in the market. But it's most likely higher price, right? The organic foods are more likely higher price. So even they know that the cheap food might use antibiotic in food production process, but sometimes they don't want to pay at higher price, so they still buy food that are not organic producing. And they survey for the reason to the people that when they decide to buy meat that were safe and standard of producing and raised without antibiotic. 25% of the people say that they will buy if they know that food is come from like organic process. And followed by the price and meat quality. The majority of the respondents were not willing to purchase the meat raised without antibiotic if the price is higher. So they have like a ceiling threshold. If the organic food has the price higher than the standard market price, they will not buy. But most of the time it's higher than right the standard price. Yes. And so they ask more that how much that you still accept for the price and buy the meat, organic meat. So I think they found that if the price is higher, not more than 5% compared to the standard market price, they will buy. Okay. And this slide show the result of survey for the knowledge of appropriate antibiotic use and the antimicrobial resistance to see the literacy for the people on antibiotic use. See that do they know that unnecessary use of antibiotic make them become infective. I think you can see that incorrect answer is the small portion compared to the correct answer. So it means that I think most of the respondents, they know that if you use the antibiotic improperly, it will become antimicrobial resistant problem. Okay. And this one is survey about the awareness of the importance of appropriate antibiotic use and antimicrobial resistance. So this different to the previous slide. The previous slide is talk about the knowledge, but this one is awareness because most of the time people know, right? And I think that most of you already know that if you use antibiotic improperly, it will become resistant, right? But for the awareness, maybe it depends on what situation you made, right? And this survey, they survey for the awareness of the among Thai adults, and they found that 3.5 out of 5 score, with the standard deviation of 0.8 in the 2021. Thai adults were not aware that they were not at risk of getting an infection from antibiotic resistant bacteria. It means that in their mind, they thought that if they got sick or got infected with the microorganism, they still have some option or some medicine to treat them. But in reality, as my Ph.D. thesis, I estimate the burden of the AMR. But my sample is in the university hospital with the highest portion of the antimicrobial resistance. And we realize that almost 50% of the AMR infection has been died. So it means that 1 out of 2 patients, right? If you got resistant organism, you don't have you have no choice to treat your infection. So you just wait to die. It's very scary, right? But I think the general population, they don't know this. So even they know that inappropriate use of antibiotic makes the resistant, but they're not aware. Okay. So I will come with the One Health approach. Has everyone heard about One Health approach? I think last 10 years, more than 10 years ago, we don't have the measure to control the problem of antimicrobial resistance as the One Health approach. We just separate in each sector, right? In agriculture, in human, in animal, we not come together. As I said, actually the problem of antimicrobial resistance has a relationship among these sectors. So the measurement, the effective measurement should be implemented in the sense of One Health policy. So each sector should come together, communication, collaboration, coordination, and building the capacity building in the nation. And in the country, the policy of the country should set the antimicrobial resistance as the national policy. Otherwise, we cannot combat the antimicrobial resistance problem in the country. Okay, this is the example of the AMR network in Thailand. You can see that there are many organizations from at least 3 ministries come together, and then they draft the national strategic plan together to attract the problem of AMR in Thailand. So final topic, I gonna summarize some highlights founding in Thailand. The antimicrobial consumption in Thailand keep decreasing. That is very good signal, right, in Thailand. So it means that our national strategy is effective to control the use of antimicrobial. And the graph, the above is in the human sector, but the below graph is in the animal sector, and it's also keep decreasing as well. And the knowledge and awareness keep increasing. That is the good side as well in Thailand. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We can give like a big applause first to her. Yeah, so thank you, Dr. Tuang, for your insightful topic. Yeah, she highlighted the critical issue of the use of antibiotics in food production, right? And also it can lead to like antimicrobial resistance. You put an example of someone that allergic to shrimp in here, but it might be not allergic to shrimp in another country, for example, because maybe those people not allergic to the shrimp, but the compound inside the shrimp. Yeah, okay. Maybe we will talk more about this topic deeply in the point of view of regulation and policies from Dr. Parun. Before Dr. Parun start their topic, I'll read a bit about his profile. He accomplished assistant professor at the Faculty of Pharmacy, also from Thammasat University, Thailand. And he come from a diverse academic background, including B.Pharm and LLM from Chulalongkorn University. He also brings a unique interdisciplinary expertise in health law, health system research, and policy development. And he has been recognized for his impactful research on healthcare service costs and health policy management. So for today, Dr. Parun will talk about regulation regarding the same issue, which is antibiotic residue in food. And yeah, maybe he will cover like the regulatory landscape and measures in place about food safety. So yeah, Dr. Parun, the time is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to share the topic regulation regarding antibiotic residue in food. I'm not good at speaking English. If you have any question, Dr. Tuangrat will translate for both of us. Okay, this the first slide. Okay, The increasing use of antibiotics in livestock and the growing resistance to this medicine is becoming a big problem. This issue not only affects the health of animals, but also impact the life of billions of people who rely on this livestock for food and their way of living. Monitoring on how antibiotics are used around the world is essential for understanding and tracking the problem of antibiotic resistance. About 100,000 tons of antimicrobial active ingredients were used for cattle, sheep, chicken, and pigs in 2020. The top 5 consumers in 2020 were China, Brazil, India, USA, and Australia. Thailand had the highest proportion of penicillin, while Chile had the highest proportion of amphenicol. Even though many countries have plans to fight antibiotic resistance and have banned certain drugs in animal farming, most countries still do not share detailed reports on how antibiotics are used in animals. Some areas such as EU has targeted to reduce antibiotic use by 20% by 2030. This slide shows epidemiology of antimicrobial resistance. If you know where is the antimicrobial or antibiotic, you can control antimicrobial resistance. This slide shows the setting where is the microbial use or exposure. There are 7 parts in this picture. The parts of human, the parts of food animal, companion animal, aquaculture, and industrial or household antibacterial chemical, and the last ethanol fuel producer. If we understanding the antimicrobial uses and distribution can greatly improve the efficiency of implementing antimicrobial control strategy. Antimicrobial resistance in livestock. The picture is from resistantbank.org, which show information about drug resistance rate in livestock. This website displays a panel containing a summary of the AMR report available for each country, number of resistance rate grouped by years and animal species, resistance rate grouped by pathogen and animal species. Antibiotics are used to treat disease and improve animal production. This antibiotic can lead to accumulation of residue in meat, milk, and eggs. The antibiotic problem should be concerned because it causes drug resistance problem. Some medicine have the potential to produce toxic relation in consumer directly when some other is able to allergic or hypersensitivity. Some medicine have long-term health effects, such as tetracycline can damage calcium-rich organs such as teeth and bone. The policy and regulation regarding antibiotic residue in food. Ensuring food safety is goal for regulatory bodies worldwide, particularly concerning antibiotic residue in food product. The use of antibiotic in food producing animal is regulated to prevent harmful residue from entering the human food chain. The primary goal of regulating antibiotics are used in food production to ensure the safety of the food supply and protect public health. This regulation aims to prevent antibiotic resistance ensure the food products are free from harmful level of antibiotic residue, and maintain consumer confidence in food safety. These are various types of regulation in control antibiotic residue in food, prohibited antibiotic list. The European Union, Thailand has banned antibiotic growth promoter. The use of antibiotics solely for growth promotion in livestock is banned in many regions. Regulatory agencies have prohibited antibiotic lists such as the EU. The EU, Thailand has been use of antibiotics such as chloramphenicol, nitrofurans in food-producing animal. The second, restricting use. The use of antibiotic is restricted and closely monitored, such as the use of antibiotics in medicated feeds. Medicated feeds must be prescribed by a licensed veterinarian. And third, reduce residue. Some regulatory framework aim for zero residue of specific antibiotics in some food products, such as milk, meaning no detectable levels are allowed. And next, maximum residue limit, or MRL. MRL representing the maximum amount of residue legally permitted in food products. The Codex Alimentarius set international standard for MRLs, which many countries adopt or use as a reference. Withdrawal time or withdrawal periods are the time required after administration of a drug before the animal can be harvested, or ensure that the antibiotic residue fall below the MRL. Antibiotic footprint is the one-off measurement or policy. This concept of antibiotic footprints involve tracking and reporting the total use of antibiotic in food production, help to monitor and manage their use more effectively. And the last measurement is level of antibiotic use. Some countries allow the word in label, such as Singapore allow less without use of antibiotic if the animal have never been administered antibiotic throughout their lifetime. This overview of law and regulation regarding antimicrobial drugs in Thailand. Thailand has implemented measures to control the use of antibiotics, covering everything from research to waste management. However, these measures are not consolidated under a single law, as each law has its distinct objective. Therefore, applying legal measure to a specific issue requires identifying the relevant law, understanding which entitled are involved in that matter. The key legislation, including the Drug Act of BE 25 and 10 or 1967, which regulate the sale of drugs for antibiotics residue in food. The Food Act governs the allowable level of substance in food products. If there are concerns about the use of antibiotics in animal feed, Thailand has the Animal Feed Quality Control Act and its amendment. This law concerns the use of drugs in animal feed, and specific usage of this drug must comply the guideline outlined in the Drug Act. Challenges encountered in addressing the issue of residual antibiotics in food. Tackling the problem of residual antibiotics in foods is a complex challenge that intersects with numerous economic, health, and regulatory dimensions. These are examples of challenges: access to cheap food, affordable foods in high demand, which led to heavy use antibiotics in animals to keep them healthy and growing quickly. This can leave traces of antibiotics in our foods. People with lower income often choose cheaper food over healthier options, make it hard to sell antibiotic-free products. Keeping food both safe and affordable is challenging. Reducing antibiotic use can raise costs and food price. To keep price down and make safer food accessible to everyone, subsidy or support are needed. And next, One Health policy. One Health approach integrates human, animal, and environment health. One Health policy requires robust collaboration among diverse stakeholders, including medical, veterinary, and environmental discipline. Achieving consensus on antibiotic use standard and practice across different sectors can be difficult. And next, government policy. Government policy on antibiotic use in agriculture can vary significantly between countries, creating inconsistency and enforcement challenges. Policy making is often influenced by industry lobbying, economic interests, and public health concerns, make it difficult to establish stringent regulation. Strong, clear, and enforceable policy are required to control antibiotic use and residue in food. Government need to balance public health priority with economic interest and industry pressure. And next, farmer concern. Farmers often rely on antibiotics to ensure animal health and productivity, particularly in intensive farming systems. Reducing antibiotics use without compromising animal welfare or farm profitability is a significant concern for farmers. Farmers need access to education and resources to adopt alternative practice, such as improved hygiene, vaccination, and selective breeding or disease resistance. Financial incentive or support for transitioning to antibiotic-free production methods may be necessary. Next, understanding risks and benefits of antibiotic use. Misinformation and lack of awareness can lead to either overuse antibiotics or unjustified fear and rejection of animal products. Educational initiatives are essential to promote rational antibiotic use and to help consumers make informed choice. Clear guidelines and evidence-based risk assessment need to balance the benefits of antibiotic use in disease prevention with the risk of antimicrobial resistance. Surveillance system of antibiotic use and antimicrobial resistance in food chain. Effective surveillance system to monitor antibiotic use and antimicrobial resistance in the food chain are often lacking or inadequate. Data collection and report can be fragmented and inconsistent, making it difficult to track trend and implement collective action. Establishing comprehensive and integrated surveillance system is crucial for monitoring antibiotic residue and AMR. International cooperation and standardization of surveillance protocol can enhance data reliability and comparability. And next, the role of consumer and consumer protection agency. Consumer play a critical role in driving demand for antibiotic-free products, but they often lack awareness or access to reliable information about food safety and antibiotic use. Consumer protection agency must ensure food safety standards are met, and provide transparency about antibiotic residue in food. Empowering consumer with knowledge and choice can promote safer food production practice. Strengthening consumer protection laws and enforcing labeling requirements can help maintain trust and safety in the food supply. And next, international trade policy. Difference in antibiotic use regulation and standard among countries can complicate international trade and create barrier or dispute. Exporting countries with less stringent regulation may resist adopting higher standards, impacting global food safety. Harmonizing international standards on antibiotic residue and AMI is necessary to facilitate safe and fair trade. Trade agreements should incorporate provision for mutual recognition of standards and enforcement mechanism to ensure compliance. And next, development of an effective international antibiotic stewardship. Global coordination and coordination and cooperation are required to develop and implement effective antibiotic stewardship program. International organization and agreement play a crucial role in fostering collaboration and supporting countries in implement stewardship program. Sharing the best practice, funding research, and building capacity in low resource setting are essential components of a global stewardship strategy. Everyone needs to understand the fundamental origins of regulation and take responsibility to ensure that legal measures are successful. And reduction of the effect of antibiotic use in food. The use of antibiotic in food production, particularly in livestock, has raised significant concern about public health and food safety. To reduce the problem use of antibiotic in food, you should the following. Follow the regulation. Adhering to safety regulation help mitigate potential risks, demonstrate social responsibility, and support fair competition. And next, good agriculture practice or GAP. GAP encompasses a wide range of strategies aimed to maintaining animal health and preventing disease through non-antibiotic means. This includes ensuring proper hygiene, provide balanced nutrition, vaccination, and employing biosecurity measures to prevent the spread of infection. And then responsible livestock promotion. Responsible livestock producer prioritize animal welfare and health through preventive measures and only resort to antibiotics when absolutely necessary. They also ensure proper withdrawal period before animals are slaughtered, which help in minimizing antibiotic residue in final food product. And concern, there is growing concern among consumer and public health officials about the presence of antibiotic residue in food. Not all antibiotics degrade under cooking temperature. This means that cooking food, which might seem like a solution to eliminate antibiotic residue, is not always effective. It's important to understand that drug allergic reaction to antibiotic-free are generally not depend on the amount of antibiotic residue present in the food. Even minimal residue can potentially cause allergic reaction in sensitive individuals. Therefore, reducing antibiotic residue is important not just for preventing resistance, but also protecting, not just for preventing resistance, but also protecting individuals with antibiotic allergies. And summary, by integrating this practice and consideration, we can ensure safer food supply chain and contribute the global effort to combat antibiotic resistance. This summary emphasizes the importance of responsible antibiotic use in food production and highlight the key practice and concern associated with antibiotic residue in food.
Okay, thank you. Give a big applause to Dr. Parun for his insightful topic. He highlighted the importance of strict regulation, right, to prevent antibiotic residues and maybe allergic because of the antibiotics residue in the food. And also, he also underscored the need for international cooperation and effective policies to ensure food safety and also protect public health across the globe. Okay, I think our two offline speakers already deliver their topics, and we move to our online speakers. I want to say hi first to Dr. Matthew Kelly. Are you here with us right now?
I am. Hello.
Okay. I just want to check that you can hear my voice clearly, right, Dr. Kelly? Okay.
Yes, no problem.
Yeah, so before you start your presentation, maybe I'll read a bit about you to the audience in here. So, Dr. Matthew Kelly is a senior lecturer from Department of Applied Epidemiology, National Center for Epidemiology and Population Health, Australian National University College of Health and Medicine. His areas of expertise include epidemiology, public health and health service, studies of Asian society, health information system, mortality, social determinants of health, public health nutrition, and others. And in the present time, he's doing his project about building the capacity for evidence-based health development in Indonesia and Thai health risk transition project. So, are you ready to deliver your insightful topic, Dr. Kelly?
Sure. So I can share my own screen.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Kelly will talk about integrating food security and health status in Southeast Asian countries, right? Yeah, so the time is yours.
Okay, so you can see my slides on the screen now?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, very good.
Oh.
Okay.
But you haven't shared the screen in here. We just see your face in the screen. Okay. That's fine.
I've shared my screen to the meeting, but I'm not sure why, why it's just me and big there.
Okay, we already seen your screen, Dr. Kelly. So you can start your presentation.
Okay, you can see my screen now. So thank you very much for coming along to my talk today. I'm very happy to be part of this workshop. This session, sorry. What I'm talking about today is a little bit different to our last two presenters, but still connects to this idea of international food systems and how they can affect human health. I'm going to concentrate on food environments and talk about changes in nutrition and diets in the Southeast Asian region and how food environments drive those. And thank you for the introduction. I am from the Australian National University. So here's just a quick outline of what I'm going to talk about today. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with the concept of the nutrition transition that's ongoing in our region. but I'm first going to introduce this concept, then go on to talk about how the nutrition transition is affecting population health, and then talk about some of the drivers of the nutrition transition at the individual and at the upstream or supply side level. Okay, so let's start with the nutrition transition. As I said, I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this concept already, but it was proposed by a nutritionist named Popkin more than 20 years ago. He observed these big-scale changes in diets globally, starting in the higher income Western countries. So he observed over time there was a change from traditional agricultural and hunter-gatherer societies to an increasing emphasis on urbanization and agriculture. And then now most countries globally, or particularly lower middle income countries, are moving from what is termed pattern 3 to pattern 4 in this diagram. What this means is that diets that were involved minimal food processing, starchy, low-fat diets, and associated high labour-intensive work have then shifted to diets that are higher in fats and sugars, and connected to that is a change in lifestyles with increases in sedentary work practices and lifestyles, and most importantly here is ultra-processed foods, which we'll come back to quite a bit through this presentation, and the health impact of those transitions is a move from undernutrition and stunting as the major health diet-related challenges to obesity and diet-related non-communicable diseases. So this diagram here encapsulates a lot of what I'll talk about over the next 15 to 20 minutes, but it's good just to have it all here in one place to start with. So again, this is the summary of the nutrition transition here. The stage that most countries in Asia are experiencing at the moment is what we call a move towards a degenerative diet, which is higher in fat, sugars, and animal products. And this is now happening worldwide. So, I'll say the nutrition transition has been happening over many decades and to some extent started in the higher income Western countries. Now nutrition transitions are happening almost everywhere in all countries around the world, but they're happening a little differently to they did over the last half a century in the higher income countries. So firstly, nutrition transitions are happening much faster than previously. So within single generations, we're seeing shifts from traditional low processed diets to very high processed diets and associated food environments that we'll come back to. What this rapid change also means is that overnutrition is becoming a health challenge in countries where undernutrition was not a solved problem yet, which then leads to many countries, particularly in Southeast Asia, having large double burden of malnutrition issues, where often children are still stunted, children are still underweight, where in the same households, communities, where adults are becoming overweight and obese. So we're having an extra health system challenge of having under and over nutrition happening at the same time. The nutrition transition is also happening now. We'll come back to this point in a later slide, but happening in new settings, which are genetically different to the more European societies where nutrition transitions first occurred. And some of these genetic groups are more susceptible to the chronic diseases which are associated with overnutrition, or they are at risk at lower weight and BMI levels. And also, the last point here is really important, that nutrition transitions are now happening in countries with lower incomes, but also within countries, lower income groups are now more at risk for reasons we'll come to in the later slides. Processed unhealthy foods are becoming cheaper than less processed healthier foods. And so we see, for example, where I live in Australia, the poorest groups in society have the highest obesity rates and the highest diabetes and non-communicable disease rates, which is a shift from the previous pattern and what is still found in some lower income countries where the richer, higher income groups are most at risk. So how is the nutrition transition manifesting in Asia now? I've got here some of the main changes or the main points that are occurring. We can see there's a massive increase in dietary energy from oils and fats in middle income Asia, nearly a fourfold increase in the last 3 decades. Refined sugar consumption is also growing very rapidly. 31 kilos per person per year is now the average in middle income Asia. And these last 2 points on meat consumption and processed food consumption are slightly dated or old statistics, but these levels would have gone up even more now. Processed food consumption is the major issue that I will be talking about through this presentation, and we can see the massive rises in the intake of those foods in some of the countries in Asia. So I know this is a very complicated diagram, but I'm happy for everyone to have my slides and look at it in more detail in their own time, and there's a reference down the bottom there. But this graph shows the level of processed food consumption in the various regions of the world over the last 2 decades or so. So we can see obviously Australasia and North America have the highest levels, followed by Western Europe. In the region where we are concentrating today, we can see in South and Southeast Asia on the far right of my screen that levels are much lower than in other regions. But the important thing that we can see there is how rapidly or how dramatically those levels have risen in only 2 decades, a tripling of the sales in terms of kilos per person. So this graph shouldn't be taken as showing South and Southeast Asia don't have as much of a problem. It's showing the problem is rising and the time to address it is now. So why are we worried about these changes in nutrition and the changes in diet that I've outlined so far? Well, a first point is to say it's not only a negative or a problematic issue that diets change over time. It's a positive outcome that underweight and child stunting and wasting have fallen dramatically over the last few decades. I know in some of the countries in our region, and in Indonesia, for example, where a lot of you are now, child stunting is still a major health concern, but overall levels have gone down over recent decades. And there's been a global average rise in food availability. Distribution is another issue, of course, but in food availability, there's been a rise. So that's the slightly positive side to nutrition transition that is ongoing. But on the negative side, we can see, there's been a doubling of global obesity prevalence in the last 40 years. And in the last 30 years, we can see these rapid rises in Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And these rises in overweight and obesity are then also connected to very large growth in chronic non-communicable disease prevalence in almost all countries in the world now. Heart disease and stroke are the leading causes of death and the leading causes of disease burden. And diabetes is very often up there in the top causes of death and disease burden as well. Now this, I touched on this point before, but in Asia, particularly in South Asia and Southeast and East Asia, disease risk is even higher at lower body mass index rates. For those not familiar, BMI means is how overweight and obesity are measured. And in many Asian populations at a level of BMI where we may consider it lower risk for Western and other genetic groups, disease risk is higher. And this last point is important. I've talked about how rapidly nutrition transitions are occurring now in Asia. And this is a problem because we now have many adult generations in Asia that were actually born with low birth weight, born to underweight mothers. And this has a genetic and metabolic effect on individuals. If they then encounter excess food or processed food diets when they reach adulthood, they're at even higher risk of metabolic and cardiovascular disease. So just to put that simply, if you're born with low birth weight or small statured, and then you become overweight or obese as an adult, this is an even bigger risk group. And this really describes a lot of populations, particularly in Southeast Asia. And this very simple graph, it just shows diabetes is going up everywhere. Each of those lines is a different sort of country income group, but across all income levels in all countries over the last 30 years, the incidence rate of diabetes has been going up. And diabetes is one of the most important indicators here because it's so clearly linked, type 2 diabetes is so clearly linked to diet and body size and sugar consumption. So it's a really important proxy for looking at nutrition transitions. So I said we would start to talk about the drivers. Why are nutrition transitions happening? So obviously there's a demand and a supply side here. Consumers are buying the processed foods and are changing their diets. And why are they doing that? Well, largely it's to do with increases in the need for convenience foods. People have incomes that can afford different diets, but also with more women in the workforce, but also just more regular standardized working hours, people working in sedentary office type jobs more. There's a demand for convenience foods that will allow those modern lifestyles, and often those more convenient foods are the problem foods that we're talking about with the nutrition transition. But people would not be able to change their diets without these new novel foods being available. So then we have supply side factors. Why is the food supply different than it was several decades ago in your region? Well, we now have a globalized food system where there's a global trade in food, and the foods that are cheapest and most effective to trade globally are processed foods, which are high in sugar and salt. They have longer shelf life. They're able to be frozen. They're able to be stored and shipped around the world. So on the supply side, there's an economic advantage to increasing the production and distribution of processed packaged foods. Agricultural systems are involved here as well. Often in countries that are big food producing countries, there's also an economic incentive to produce cash crops for the processed food market rather than traditional culturally valued foods. And the last point here that we'll come back to over a few slides there's a concept of a food environment. So what foods are, we'll talk about food environments in the next slide. Before I go on to describe it myself, we'll just read this lovely definition of what a food environment is. Food environment is a broad concept, but it basically means what it is around us as a culture and an economy that affect our food choices and enable certain food choices, make certain foods easier to find, easier to purchase, but also that people have preferences, cultural and personal preferences for. But the second part of this definition is important here. It's the spaces in which people make decisions about food. So I'm going to talk about supermarkets and food retailing a bit in the coming slides, and this is where they come in to their food environment concept. They're the main spaces in modern society where people make food decisions. So how does the food environment influence nutrition? Well, obviously, as a starting point, food environments shape which foods are available and the relative prices and affordability of certain foods, which of course then drives people's consumption decisions. I've touched on these first 2 points a little already, but the globalized food chains and modern food retailing do increase food diversity. Again, not everything is negative in these food system changes. But much of the diversity and much of the new foods that are coming in are processed, unhealthy foods. As I mentioned before, these foods can be produced more cheaply than less processed, healthier foods. They can be distributed more easily. They can find a global reach. And there is an incentive for retailers to stock these foods because they have higher profit margins and are just easier to sell in the supermarket type concept. And the other effect of this is a sort of health equity impact. When fresh markets, which are the traditional retail outlet for most of Asia, when they start to be replaced by modern food retailers, supermarkets mainly, this impacts on poorer consumers even more than wealthier consumers as processed foods become cheaper than fresh foods. So here is a little information on what has been happening with supermarkets in your region in Southeast Asia. There's been what we call a supermarket revolution underway since the mid-1990s. For those of us who've been around since before the mid-90s, I've seen myself the rapid growth of supermarkets in Southeast Asia from virtually non-existent to now being ubiquitous and everywhere. And by modern food retailing, we mean supermarkets, but also the 7-Elevens, the Indomaret, the convenience stores, all those sorts of places as well are all versions of modern food retailing. So it's hard to get an exact estimate, but it's now probably about half of the food retailing market in Southeast Asia is working through modern food retailers. And there's sort of a process that's been observed in many settings, not just in Asia, also in Central and South America, and now moving into Africa as well. Modern food retailers begin by targeting upper income groups in the bigger cities. So you'll start in Jakarta or Bangkok, you'll have fancy supermarkets for expatriates and wealthy Thais and Indonesians. Then once they've established a foothold in the market, then they start to expand from the big cities to the regions and the smaller towns, but also, and this is important, as I mentioned earlier, they start to target lower income groups as well as the upper income groups. And then they start to sell fresh foods and processed foods and start to drive fresh markets out of competition. Most of these modern food retailers are multinational food companies. So this whole supermarket revolution, move towards supermarket growth, is enabled by foreign investment laws and free trade agreements, which we'll come back to. And research, including my PhD research, has connected this food retail change to increases in processed packaged food consumption. Okay, this again, I've got one of these complicated graphs. Again, you might want to look at this in your own time. But this graph shows the share of the retail market. This is Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, China, and so on. These are high, middle, and lower middle income countries. And we can see the market, the daily expenditure by consumers in each type of food retail. Again, it's too complicated for this presentation, sorry, but I'll let you look at it in your own time. This one is a bit easier to see. So these graphs show changes in food retailing value and consumption by food type and by socio-demographic index. So in this left-hand top graph, we can see the retail value in modern food retailing compared to traditional food retailing over the last 2 decades or so. So we can see everywhere the modern food retailing is increasing in retail share, whereas the traditional is staying flat or decreasing. And then we can see, regardless of which food retail format, we can see the different types of food and their retail value, again, over the last 2 decades or so. So fresh food, fairly flat, packaged food going up everywhere. So that's just a summary of the nutrition transition in a few graphs there. So what can countries do about this issue? Start to talk about some of the possible policy responses and what different governments are doing in the region. But first to say, it's really challenging to address food environments, but it's necessary because promoting good nutrition to individuals to raise health awareness of healthy foods is important, of course, but in a food environment where the cheapest foods are the least healthy and where supermarkets are everywhere selling processed foods very cheaply, it's hard to influence individual diets that way. So we have to think about policies and approaches which can actually address food environments, not just individual food consumption patterns. But as I said earlier, a lot of food retail and the international trade in food is governed by free trade and investment agreements. Sometimes those free trade agreements do not actually allow individual countries to make health policies which may have economic impact on the multinational food trade, which is an issue. But also, on the other hand, a lot of countries in the region are actually producers of these processed foods as well as being consumers of them. Thailand and Indonesia are both good examples there of countries that produce a lot of frozen and packaged foods. So policies that aim to reduce production of these foods can also have economic impact on food producers within these countries themselves. But regardless of that, some policy approaches are being undertaken at the moment. A lot of countries, we'll come to this in the next slide, but a lot of countries are considering fat and sugar taxes to make an upstream impact on people's food choices, nutrition labelling to improve health awareness, and most importantly, advertising restriction. Land use zoning is around controlling where supermarkets can be located within cities and communities, and that's also, particularly in Thailand, has been used as a method. So here we'll just skim over some of the policy responses which are underway in Asia and Southeast Asia. One of the biggest efforts that are being made is restricting marketing of processed packaged foods. And, obviously, as a group that's developing their food preferences and who are very vulnerable to advertising, restricting marketing in children's viewing times on TV, banning marketing in schools, for example, and in Thailand, I believe, warning messages on unhealthy foods are also being implemented. And a big challenge here, which I won't go into deeply here, but of course is social media marketing, because a lot of these sort of controls are based on traditional old style media of TV and radio, whereas most children are seeing most of their advertising online these days. Many countries in the region have also implemented sugar taxes, and then on the other hand are subsidizing farmers to produce more fruit and vegetables rather than just producing ingredients for processed foods. More research is needed, and a lot of these measures are new, but this is just a summary of some research which has been done on the effectiveness of some of these food environment modification policies. Thailand's sugar sweetened beverage tax has led to a 2.5% reduction in consumption, which is not a lot, but is still a positive movement. And other studies in Thailand, Singapore, and South Korea have found marketing bans and mass communication campaigns can be successful here. So a lot of research is going on now into the effect of sugar and fat taxes, but it's very complicated, obviously, and results are still being determined, but it seems overall that increasing the price of these unhealthy products can have a positive impact. Okay, so thanks for listening to my talk today. So just coming to my conclusion slides. A nutrition transition to degenerative unhealthy diets is well underway in our region, in the Asia Pacific. This has been connected to rapidly rising rates of overweight and obesity, as we've seen tripling in the rates in some of the countries in our region. One of the major drivers of this nutrition transition is food environment and the growth of globalized food trade and modern food retailing. And therefore, I think the conclusion to take away from this talk is that individual health education and promotion can only go so far when the food environment is obesogenic, the food environment is enabling and making affordable and available these problem foods. So that is perhaps where policy responses need to be directed rather than expecting individuals to change their behaviour in such an environment. So thank you very much for listening. I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any of your comments when we come to that stage.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Maybe big applause for the insightful topic from Dr. Kelly. Maybe the Q&A session will be held after one more speaker talk about their topic. So yeah, we will maybe around 30 minutes later, we will open the Q&A session. So yeah, maybe we move to our last speaker for today's panel, Dr. Digna. Did you hear my voice clearly from here? Yeah, okay. Are you ready to present your topic today? So maybe before you start the presentation, I'll read a bit about your profile. So yeah, Dr. Digna is a lecturer in the Department of Biostatics, Epidemiology, and Population Health. And she completed her master's degree in Gajah Mada University. She obtained her Ph.D. in Public Health and Community Medicine from the School of Population Health from UNSW Sydney in 2019. And also she focused on public health nutrition issues in vulnerable population. She has also be a part of behavioral context related to nutritional status, particularly in disadvantaged settings. So maybe because we only have like 20 until 30 minutes left, maybe I'll give the time to you, Dr. Digna. So the time is yours to present your topic.
Thank you very much. um, just clarifying first, can you hear my voice clearly?
Yeah, but like a bit, maybe you can, is it like the maximum volume? Udah paling kenceng, Pak. Udah segini ya. Okay. Okay.
This is already maximum volume from my side.
Okay, okay. I think we can hear your voice clearly. You can start the
Oh.
presentation.
So thank you for the opportunity to share perspective on achieving food security and health status for Indonesia healthcare 2030, or so we call the Indonesia Sehat. This discussion will cover three contents. The first one is the overview of SDGs Indonesia 2030 targets, especially that are related to food security and health, and then the policy development in Indonesia especially, and some strategies in implementing policies that support the achievement of healthy Indonesia in 2030. We go to the first one first. As we already aware, there are 17 SDGs for all nations, and which ones are actually related to food security and health status? We can answer that almost all SDGs are related to food security and health status. However, in this session, I only covered the first three ones that are closely related and directly related to food security and health status. The first one is the no poverty. In 2023, the National Agency for Development and Planning, or Bappenas, they set up a roadmap for SDGs in Indonesia. And the poverty level based on the national poverty line, in the blue line, we can see 6.61% is the target if we do this as business as usual. However, if we want to leverage that target and try to achieve the orange line, which means 3.83% of poverty level at the end of 2030, we need to include some scenario of intervention that covers like inclusive economic growth, human resource investment, social protection, and basically no one left behind in Indonesia. Where are we now? In 2023, the National Statistic Office, or BPS, released a fact sheet, and we know that in March here, we have 9.36% of poor population in Indonesia. So it's not so far from this blue line. However, the blue line is just a business as usual, not the one that is leveraged by some scenarios. So we should be aware about this issue. And furthermore, if we do some analysis and breaking it down into like more geographically specific analysis, we can find that the poverty is more prevalent first in the rural area, and then the second one is in some underdeveloped region in Indonesia. For example, in Papua, in Nusa Tenggara, and also some part of Sulawesi, or and the interesting part is in Java Island, poverty in urban area, we can find that number of poor people, not percentage, but number of poor people is actually higher or greater in urban area than rural area. The other indicator for SDGs that are related to food insecurity is the second one, which is the no hunger. If you look at the left side, this figure shows the prevalence of inadequate food consumption in 2030. The prevalence in the blue line is the projection, like the one before, it's just business as usual. But if we apply some scenario of intervention, hopefully we can leverage that target into 3.60% by 2030. In the right one, there is a figure showing prevalence of people with moderate or severe food insecurity based on the food insecurity experience scale. And the target is 4.70. And after we apply some scenarios of intervention, hopefully the target will be 3.30%. The scenario should include, the first one is increasing access and availability of food, which can be done through the strengthening domestic production of priority crops and managing national food reserves, stabilizing the supply of food commodities and price of staple foods, as well as mitigating the impact of climate change. Not so long ago, if we still can remember, Indonesia, some of Indonesia's areas experienced drought, long drought, and we cannot produce staple foods such as rice. And I remember during the presidential election, the rice price was actually really high, and so many people could not afford that. And then this shows that the prevalence of food shortage is strongly influenced by national food availability, and it's very crucial for the state to ensure that people have access to basic food ingredients. And we need to pay attention to factors that can have a negative impact on the agricultural sector, such as natural disaster, climate change, and extreme weather. This is truly important because they are directly related to food production, especially in the rural area in Indonesia. The food security and vulnerability map from the Ministry of Agriculture shows that households that do not have access to adequate electricity and also roads, meaning the physical access, and also water, are vulnerable to experiencing food security. Therefore, if we want to address food insecurity or increase the food secure level for the household, we need to improve the economic access to food itself. That covers the infrastructure development, especially for poor groups or areas in Indonesia. And this is the other indicator for the SDGs number 2, is the prevalence of stunting. The blue one is again the projections if we do, or if we put stunting as an issue and we do something as business as usual to it, like the one that we already have some programs in Indonesia. And the orange one is the target that we can achieve, hopefully, by doing some multi-sectoral approach to deliver nutrition-sensitive and specific intervention with focus on integrated nutritional intervention in the first 1,000 days of life. This is where we are. In 2023, the government released the result of Survei Kesehatan Indonesia, or Indonesia Health Survey. And stunting prevalence now is 21.5%. If we compare to the projections here in 2023, it's actually in the blue line, not in the orange one. It means we need to leverage, we need to improve our intervention to combat the stunting issue in Indonesia. And the government, they have a really good initiative to expand the coverage of intervention to include any program that is given to the targets and within the 8,000 days first of life, that we will cover the adolescence periods and also the early adult and pre-conception nutrition. This is the important one, and also the pregnancy. And what about the wasting in the nutrition area? We also consider wasting as the main indicators for development. In the blue line, we can see that the target for wasting prevalence, if we do this something like business as usual, 5.66% of wasting prevalence. But if we do some intervention, hopefully that this target will reach 1.98%. It should be noted that almost nearly 40% of households in Indonesia cannot afford to adopt a healthy diet at an affordable price. Yes, Indonesia is now like moving into the same direction as with the other nations, that if you want to have a healthy diet, the cost is not cheaper anymore. It's not cheap. It's increasing. I will show you later in the slides. While improving the nutritional status of children under 5 requires policies that expand access to highly nutritious food. The thing is, the access to highly nutritious foods in Indonesia right now is quite challenging, given the price is also rising, as well as in the other nation. And we haven't set up the food aid programs really well, and we need to improve that. And the food supplement for poor and vulnerable groups are also not in place yet. So we need to really work on that area. This is the policy direction from 2025 to 2030, which basically try to fulfill food and nutritional needs that are sufficient, affordable, healthy, nutritious, diverse, and safe. We have several regulations, or so we say policies. And the last one is the Presidential Decree number 66, year 2021, concerning the establishment of National Food Agency. This is the specific bodies, government bodies, that have a function on strengthening the availability and stabilization of food supplies and price, and then controlling food insecurity and strengthening food and nutrition awareness, and strengthening food consumption, especially in to include the food diversity and also food safety. Aside from SDGs 1 and 2, we also have SDGs number 3, the good health and well-being. And within this target, we found that non-communicable diseases are also a policy priority for the Ministry of Health, especially diseases that contribute to the highest burden in Indonesia, such as the hypertension, obesity, diabetes, stroke, cardiovascular disease, cancer, and also chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. In 2022, we composed like national report on non-communicable disease, and we found that the prevalence of hypertension, diabetes, stroke, and coronary heart disease are alarmingly high in Indonesia, and this disease took the high proportion of health insurance payment in Indonesia. The strategy that is proposed to handle this issue of non-communicable disease is to improve and expand early detection, especially to do some screening on vulnerable population. Basically, the principle is the sooner, the better, because if we want to handle or tackle the non-communicable disease, we need to start as earlier as possible. And just to give context here, this is the adult overweight and obesity prevalence in Indonesia from 2007 to 2023. We can see that the prevalence is rising really high, and this prevalence also in line with the rising of non-communicable disease in Indonesia. The policy direction is the first one, increasing the healthy living community movement, or we call it Germas, and then increasing medical service, medical rehabilitation, social rehabilitation, and support from the community for people with mental health disorder. This is important and related to the obesity issue itself. And the third one is increased accessibility and quality of health services and increasing food diversity and safety. I just want to ask you to have a look. Let's check on the price of fresh foods in one of the supermarkets in Yogyakarta. Please note that the price is in 100 grams. So we need to times that 10 times if we want to have a 1 kilograms price. For example, here, if you want to buy fresh, let me say the animal protein here, beef, 1 kilogram beef is like 140,000 rupiahs. And then for fish, approximately like 50,000 rupiahs. And this is still fresh, not already cooked. If we compare with the price of popular foods in Yogyakarta, I believe many students consume these foods, and because it's very convenient, can be found easily, and it's easy to eat. Not really need to wait long for this food. The first one is called bakso tusuk. Maybe Mbak Moderator can explain later what is bakso tusuk. And it's very popular in Yogyakarta, and I believe also in different parts of the cities in Indonesia. The price of bakso tusuk is only like 16,000 Indonesian rupiahs. It's very cheap. And some students, they say that they can eat bakso tusuk for dinner. Only bakso tusuk, not with other foods. And this one, the pink one, is S.Gz. S.Gz has really high sugar, and also, although there are some fruits in this popular ice in Yogyakarta, but still it's very sweet. And also they have susu kental manis, which basically also sugar, not milk. And the price is even cheaper than bakso tusuk. It's only 10,000 Indonesian rupiahs. What about this one? This is a very popular bread or cake in Yogyakarta. And again, the price is also quite cheap. It's only 23,000. Sometimes students and also another population like children, they love to consume this bread for breakfast or maybe for snacks. And it can be easily found in Indonesia, in Yogyakarta. In Indonesia, they also have some popular brands of cake, and although the price is maybe higher, but it still can be easily accessible by the children or other population group. And the last one, donuts. The issue of donuts consumption is not only about the sweetness that is already there, but also in the preservatives that might not be, the population might not be aware about the issue. Why I tried to ask you to look at the unhealthy foods earlier in the earlier slides, because the food insecurity also might have a contribution to the obesity issue in Indonesia. People who have limited resources, they try as best as they can to find foods that is high energy dense and quite cheap in that area. And we can see that the association of food insecurity and obesity is likely modified by some additional factors, at least in some contexts. In 2009, we did a research in the slum area in Yogyakarta, and we found that the proportion of food insecurity in obese mothers, poor obese mothers, was really high. It's like 68% at that time. I don't know right now, maybe even higher. And the reason why the poor mother become more obese is they try to really adopt the best strategy that can fulfill their dietary requirements within the cheap price. Unfortunately, the cheap food usually not really diverse, and they only have a high energy without any additional nutrient contents. In Indonesia, we just recently have a regulation on taxation. However, the application or implementations of this tax on sugar sweetened beverage will only be implemented in 2024. So finger crossed on these policies. We call it cukai, minuman berpemanis dalam kemasan. And this is the policy development. We follow the policy cycle here, agenda setting, and then policy formulation, policy adoption, policy implementation, and evaluation. Through these policy cycles, the academics and also the other stakeholders can play a role, important roles to participate in formulating, in revising, in implementing maybe, and also evaluating the policy on food insecurity and also nutrition and health status in Indonesia. There are three important parts that we can really participate in. The first one is the acquisition, synthesis, and dissemination of knowledge relating to health, nutrition, and disease. We can call this as knowledge management. So by doing some evidence summary, evidence generation, evidence synthesis, and also evidence dissemination, we can actually contribute in the first policy cycle in agenda setting. We can advocate that this particular issue is important to be addressed in our society, and that the government should put some resource on this issue and really focus their programs on the specific challenges that we faced. What about the policy formulation? Still, we can also use our analysis to support the policy formulation by giving feedbacks or inputs to the government. And during the policy adoption, we can particularly take part in the adoption process, but it's not really easy, to be honest. And Indonesia, there is a report from DFAT Australia that states Indonesia tend to not follow this may I say, policy cycle as usual, but we developed another style of policy cycle here in Indonesia. Back to these important parts. After we try to do some knowledge management on any issue related, on any evidence related to food security and also nutrition and health status, we need to do some surveillance, especially on food, nutrition, and also maybe the outcomes that targeted outcomes in the SDGs as part of the routine surveillance held by the both district level government and also central level governments. The decentralization system in Indonesia actually allow us to to deploy some resources to do surveillance, both in district level and also at central level. And this is very, very important because it supports the continuous monitoring and evaluation for any program related to food insecurity and health and nutrition. And the third one is the evidence-informed policy development, implementation, and evaluation. This is, of course, related to the first and second point. And the third one might use some benefits from the result of the first and second important parts. The implementation strategies should consider the challenges that we found in the field. The first one is the strategies for food insecurity and nutrition insecurity and also health status in Indonesia. They're usually implemented by various related ministry or institution, including multi-sectors at the district level. And sometimes the implementation is partial and sectoral focus, uncoordinated. That's why the synergy and synchronization of implementation in the field is not built. So the program is there. The initiatives are there. The people are there, but they do not really coordinate each other. And we need to sometimes involve third party to do this technical assistance to set up communication and to make the coordination smoother than usual for them. This issue poses challenges, especially in the resource, because resource could not be used optimally. Sometimes one program can actually be done as the part of another program. So it can be effectively wise for the resource usefulness at the district level, especially. And involvement of local governments and other stakeholders still needs to be developed properly. In 2022 or 2023, the Department of Nutrition, they did these wonderful initiatives on pentahelix and multi-sectoral collaboration on stunting alleviation program in Yogyakarta. And they involve not only academics, but also the government and the community institution and private sector. And they really actively communicate and coordinate the stunting programs. And they try to set up further collaboration on it. This is the strategies to try to handle the challenges before. The first one is transforming the food system into a more resilient and sustainable direction by formulating the comprehensive policies and strategies that really consider the economic, social, and environmental aspects. The implementation of food system development programs and activities also should involve the cross-sectoral and all stakeholders. From the health perspective, the strategies will be in line with the health transformation agenda by the Ministry of Health. And the first one, to set up a more integrated primary health care, and then transformation of referral services. This is especially important to increase access and quality of secondary and tertiary services through the construction of hospitals in eastern part of Indonesia. And the third one is to set up a more health resilient system to maintain a good health system amidst global health trends. And the fourth one is transformation of the health financing system to provide easy and equal access to health services, especially for people who fall into disadvantaged group. The health financing system covers especially the JKN or Jaminan Kesehatan Nasional or Universal Health Coverage, and it will cover the expanding of JKN through all population in Indonesia. And the fifth one, this is important one, transformation of health human resources to provide equitable distribution of health workers throughout Indonesia, including in undeveloped areas. This includes the eastern part of Indonesia and also the islands of the outer islands of Indonesia. And the last one, the health technology transformation, which means that we try as best as we can to include the utilization of information technology and biotechnology in developing any health and food intervention in Indonesia. This is the summary. The Healthy Indonesia is one of the goals of social transformation for Indonesia amongst 2045. This include building a resilient and responsive food system and health system to ensure a long-lived and healthy population with hopefully stunting will be reduced to be below 5%, and also TB and leprosy can be eradicated. The transformative health efforts is aligned with the Ministry of Health current programs, and especially in terms of nutrition, the government, they focus on expanding the coverage of nutrition-specific and sensitive intervention to cover the not only 1,000 first day of life, but 8,000 first day of life. This is, I think, what I can share now. Thank you very much for your attention. And saya kembalikan ke Mbak Moderator. Monggo, silahkan.
Matur nuwun, Dr. Dina. Thank you, Dr. Dina, and we can give a big applause to her for her insightful topic about health Indonesia, and also about transformative health efforts that already performed in Indonesia, and also Indonesian goals maybe related to health policy and management. Okay, now we are move to Q&A session. We have like around 1 hour for discussion, and maybe is there any of you who want to ask the questions to our 4 speakers today? Dr. Tuang, Dr. Parun, Dr. Kelly, and also Dr. Digna. You can raise your hands. Okay, maybe I'll give like the opportunity to the person who come offline first, and then we move to online participant. You can say your name, affiliation, and also to whom the question is addressed.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Fiona, majoring in health and nutrition, third year student. I would like to address my question to Dr. Tuang and Dr. Parun. Okay, a quick backstory to my question. Sadly, the wrong practices in using too much pesticides, chemical fertilizers, and any other type of antimicrobial do happen in one of the region in Yogyakarta, which called Dieng. Socialization or education about the negative impact of those practices have been made, and suggestion to use organic fertilizers also have been educated to them. But from the farmers' perspective, they disagree to lower their antimicrobial usage as they scared that it will lower their crops production and affect their household economy. And their thinking is the more they use the chemicals, the better the result will be for the productions and economy side. With that situations in mind, what can be done as a first step to approach the farmers in giving understanding for them that the practices that they are doing will have negative impact not only for the crop production over the years but also their health? That is the first question. And for the second question, how to find balance in using antimicrobial in livestock and crops, as the usage of antimicrobial might have some advantages such as longer shelf life or lower crops failure. Or can you suggest any alternative instead of using antimicrobial in that problems? Thank you.
Okay, you want to answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe I can answer for both of us. So I think it's if the government pay attention on this problem, so it's impossible to just only educate to the farmer. As I said, even they know the negative impact of using antibiotic or using pesticide, but if the government want the farmer stop using this kind of chemical material, they need to have like the policy to be the another, alternative option to the farmer, not just only prohibited. You know what I mean, right? So the government need to allocate some budget to facilitate or to build the capacity building for the system or for the farmer to run their business in terms of organic farm, something like this. It should be the measurement that could be effective than only contraindication or just prohibit to use something like this. That's my opinion.
Okay, is there any following questions? Maybe the second one about the alternative of the, what was the second question?
So rather than the policy and what alternative options should be used instead of using antimicrobial, right? As based on my literature review, I found that some of the literature suggests to use the another, maybe we call probiotic in the system to have the diversity of the microorganism and let them like balance the ecosystem instead of using the antimicrobial.
Okay, enough? Or any other question?
The battery is last. One more option. The farmer might use the vaccination to the animal to prevent infection disease as well.
Okay, you got the answer? No response? Or you need like another, maybe following questions to her?
Okay, maybe the suggestions that you gave is more for the government to do. But what if us as a student, what can we contribute to the community regarding the situation?
So for the student, I think you might have some activity that you work with the community. As in Thammasat University, we are the university that teach the student to love their community and work for the population. So I hope that UGM also want the student to be the people that can work closely with their own community. So you can use your own knowledge to contribute many things to the people in the community and work closely with them. Maybe help the people knowledge and also awareness.
Okay, thank you for the
Okay,
answer.
yeah, maybe something like community service. If in UGM, we have those kind of activities to get to know closer to the community. Yeah, maybe another questions from the offline participant. Okay.
Assalamualaikum. My question is to Dr. Tuan.
Sorry, maybe your name, your affiliation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My name is Shazia, and I am from Pakistan. And now I am international student at ONE, Yogyakarta State University. My question is to Dr. Tuan. What are the current patterns of antimicrobial consumption in food-producing animals, and how do they affect the antimicrobial resistance in food safety globally?
Maybe you can repeat again the questions.
What are the current patterns of antimicrobial consumption in food-producing animals, and how they can affect the antimicrobial resistance and food safety globally?
What pattern? Sorry?
Food safety.
Food safety pattern?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Antimicrobial resistance. Yeah.
Ah. So like the food pattern about the antimicrobial?
Yeah. Not only in Thailand, like globally, how it affect.
Oh, about the issue that you mentioned before, not only in Thailand, maybe in another country, something like that. Yeah.
I think I understand the second question, but the first question was is that
the first question?
What are the current patterns of antimicrobial consumption?
I'm sorry, what
current pattern? Now
background?
Pattern.
The pattern. The pattern.
Oh, the pattern. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the grand pattern of antibiotic use, right, globally.
Yeah.
And how is
affect the antimicrobial
resistance. Okay. So actually, I think it does the same even in Thailand or globally. So the grand pattern, so they mostly used in the food producing animal and also in agriculture, aquaculture. It is the same thing. And but in globally, as I show the geographic, you see that most problem of antimicrobial resistance or number of death is belong to the region of Asia and Africa. So these two regions are more likely to use the antibiotic in the food production value chain, and how it has the negative impact or how it can relate to the antimicrobial resistance is because of maybe the first reason is the diversity of the microorganism in the ecosystem also, and the antimicrobial resistant genes can transmit and spread throughout the world.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any following questions? No? No, okay, that's enough. Okay, thank you so much, Shalda. And is there any questions from the online or offline participant first? Maybe to Dr. Kelly or Dr. Digna, they already joined us online. Or maybe I also will ask, we have like online participant also like Mas Yopi. Is there only online participants? No? Okay. So we'll move back to the offline participants. Is there any questions related to maybe other topic than antibiotics residue in food? We also have to another topic. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, my name is Aifana. I'm a medical student from the Netherlands, University of Groningen, and my question is addressed to Dr. Kelly. You mentioned the nutrition transition and the different stages, and I was wondering about the fifth stage, desired societal and behavioral change. I was wondering if this is just a theoretical stage or if there are already countries that have reached this stage, and how we can speed up the transition to this stage, for example, for Indonesia. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Kelly, do you get the question?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, he can answer.
Well, my voice is echoing a bit, I think. But anyway, it's a very good question, and I was going to mention it in my talk, but then I just thought to concentrate on the other aspects. But basically, in a lot of higher income countries and in some population groups in middle income countries as well, there is certainly a move to, there's a health food movement, there's an organic food movement, there's big vegetarian, movement towards eating more plant-based foods, those sorts of things. So that's and along with that, people going to the gym, exercising more, seeing the importance of that sort of lifestyle. So that is certainly happening. I wouldn't say it's happening in particular countries, it's happening in particular population groups in many countries. Unfortunately, the population group that sort of healthier lifestyle movement is possible for are often the higher income groups in those populations. So Ibu Digna and myself both talked about relative pricing of foods, that it's very expensive to eat a healthy diet. In Australia, it certainly is, and now we've seen it in Indonesia, it is as well. So I think that's the challenge, right? That this movement to that extra stage of the nutrition transition is happening, but it's happening for people who can afford it. Also, going to the gym is expensive. Often in countries like in Indonesia, in the tropical countries with large populations, there's no space to do exercise. So it's only, wealthier people who can afford to actually get a gym membership and make those sort of lifestyle changes. So that answers the first bit of your question, I think, as in, is that stage happening or is it theoretical? It is definitely happening, but only in certain population groups. And if we can see the barriers that I'm mentioning here to that sort of movement, it's about, the poorest people work the longest hours and have the least access to all these sorts of health promoting activities and foods. So finding ways to break that barrier is the challenge, right? So whether that's as well as taxes on unhealthy foods, perhaps that's subsidies for healthy foods. It's moving it in the opposite direction. Maybe it's subsidizing exercise opportunities for poorer population groups. Whatever the barrier is, that there's ways to address it, but it needs governments to acknowledge that just telling poor people to eat more healthily, eat more fruit and vegetables, eat 5 serves a day, just telling them that in an environment where they can't afford to do that or it's not possible to do that is not very effective. So that's why I was talking about sort of more upstream food environment type policies. Most people you'll talk to know what a healthy diet is, right? It's just that they can't always achieve that, in some settings. Does that answer your question?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly, for the answer. And also, what's your name again? Sorry? Ifana, thank you for the insightful question. And maybe one more question from the offline student in here. We still have like one speaker that haven't answered any question yet, Dr. Digna. Maybe you have any question related to Indonesian policies, to be more specific. Because maybe the three of the participant who asked in this panel is a girl. Maybe I need some voice from the man in the room. Because there's quite a lot men in here. Maybe some of you want to ask the questions. Yeah, after I asked it, all of them like turn her head down. Try to avoid eye contact with me. Okay. Is there any questions from the men in the group in this room? You can ask any questions, maybe not only to Dr. Digna, but to all the speakers in today's panel? No? Okay, so actually I have one question, but unfortunately I have the question related to antibiotics because my background is from pharmacy. Yeah, actually it's actually related to the questions that asked previously by Fika. Fio. Because you said previously that the policy, when we want to change the alternative from the antibiotic to another safer alternative, it has to come from the policy from the government. But is there possible that we perform like a win-win solution? I mean, we still use like a limited dose of antimicrobial, but not affect the risk, for example, to AMR. Is there any a balance between those, those part, without completely change the,
Yeah, I got your question, but the answer, I think toward AMR, it's very hard to say that even the low amount of antibiotic use in the food production process still can lead to the antimicrobial resistant problem. But for the safety to the consumer, for sure that you can have the we call withdrawal period, right? And the minimum quantity to use, right? So this is 2 points of using antibiotic in food production process. So for the safety, you can manage. You can use at the safe dosing, something like this, and you have withdrawal period. Whatever this you can manage. But for the AMR, I think if you still use the antibiotic, the AMR cannot be very. I mean, it still happen. But just like we prolong the process of development of AMR.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tuang, for a brief explanation. Maybe one more time, I will ask: is there any questions from the participant here? Yeah, I believe because this is the last panel, right? So you already run out the energy to join the course. But don't forget that Mr. Yopi still have a lot of essay related to the topic that we talk today. So if there's no more questions, but I think the team or the committee will also, facilitate if you have further questions. Yeah, Mas Yopi, so you can write down, maybe not now, but later, you can write down your questions and maybe they will help you to deliver the question to the speakers. And I will one again, we should perform a big applause again to our distinguished 4 speakers for today's sessions. Thank you so much, Dr. Parun, Dr. Tuang, Dr. Kelly, and Dr. Digna for your insightful topic and expertise. I think because there's no more question left in here, I'll end up this session. And thank you so much for all the participants who already engaged in this panel. And I'll give it back to Mas Yopi. Thank you.
Check. Okay, so once again, give a big applause for the last time for the next session for our persons in the last panel, Rizka, Parun, and then Tuangrat, and also we have Kelly from Australia and Digna. Thank you so much for joining with us. And that was the end of the lecture sessions for Summer Course 2024. And for tomorrow, I got the updated information regarding your activity. And tomorrow, we hope you already there at the Wisdom Park at 7:15. Okay. Or 7:15. Don't forget to wear the shirt and the training pants and shoes, of course. Don't wear high heels over there because you will have an activity outdoor. And then for the next week, we will have a lot of interesting activities outside this class. Start from Monday until Tuesday. Okay, and don't forget to bring your ID card for tomorrow. And see you tomorrow, everyone. Don't forget 7:15. Okay. So thank you so much for joining with us and see you everybody. Bye bye. Thank you so much.